All right, and welcome to Intro to Absolute Value. Now, I want you to imagine that someone is just standing maybe on a football field or just standing anywhere, and perhaps they were asked, or perhaps they just started walking. And let's say they just started walking, to our right, maybe it's their left, who knows? They're walking this direction. And if they were standing on a number line, we would say, you know what, hey, they are headed in a positive direction. Let's say that they began walking to the left. We would say that they're headed in a negative direction relative to where they're standing. However, let's say that they walked on over to 10 feet. And I asked you, how far did they walk? Well, you would say, well, Mr. Hastings, that's pretty easy. They walked 10 feet to the right. And if I were to ask you if that's positive or negative, you would say it is positive. However, what if they walked 10 feet to the left? What if they walked 10 feet to the left? Would you say that they walked a distance of negative 10 feet? Would that make sense to you? And the answer would be no. So even though they're moving in a negative direction, they've actually still moved a positive distance. Remember, in the real world, there's no such thing as a negative distance, only a positive distance with a direction. So in this case, the negatives indicate direction, but they don't indicate distance. And so going to the right is a positive 10 feet. Going to the left is a positive 10 feet. And what we're really calling this is their displacement. They're being displaced by about 10 feet. Okay, so what is absolute value? Absolute value is the measure without direction. It is the amount of displacement. It's the distance that they traveled, and absolute value will always be positive. Let's engage some examples here. Okay, here we have our first four examples, and you'll notice these weird straight lines. So what are these weird straight lines? Well, these are actually something that we call absolute value bars. And whenever we see this, we're saying, hey, everything inside, we're going to take the absolute value of it. Now, the absolute value, I said it will always make things positive, and this is where students get so confused. So a positive 6, if it's going to make it positive, all that means is that it stays positive. The absolute value of positive 6 is positive 6. But what about the absolute value of negative 6? Remember, we said it makes everything positive. So the absolute value of negative 6 would become positive 6. Okay, let's try example 3. The absolute value of negative 3 over 8 would become positive 3 over 8. It makes everything positive. And lastly, and this is, once again, after learning this is where students make mistakes. What about the absolute value of 0.007? Well, check it out. Even though it's positive, absolute value bars do not change the sign. They only change negative things to positives, but they keep positive things, they keep them positive. So it'd still be positive 0.007. Okay, let's look at some problems involving some algebra. Okay, here in example 5, we have the absolute value of x is equal to 7. However, we have a slight problem. When you see something like this, we don't know, was x equal to positive 7 originally, or was x equal to negative 7 originally? Remember, if I plug in positive 7, it'll pop out positive 7. If I plug in negative 7, it will still pop out positive 7. And so the way that we get around this is to actually say, here, x is just equal to negative 7 or positive 7. We don't know, so we say that it's likely equal to both. Okay, let's see right here. Here we don't know, was x equal originally to negative 12 over 5 or positive 12 over 5? Which one was it? Well, the answer is both. We say x is equal to negative 12 over 5, and 12 over 5. I shouldn't use the word or here, I should use the word and. Okay, now why is this true? Well, we won't cover this too much in detail right now, but an absolute value function actually forms a V shape. It forms a V shape. So it's not a U shape, it's a sharp V shape, And we would simply say, hey, maybe this point's -7 and maybe that point is +7. For this one, it would form this V shape and we'd say, well, you know what, that point is -12/5 and that point is +12/5. So it's kind of the same as a quadratic function. It has two solutions and we're finding out where does it cross the x-axis. Okay, next for example 7, we have the absolute value of -8. Okay, and this one is a problem. So let's kind of star this problem. Remember, we said absolute values make everything positive, but here we're saying that this absolute value is making the final answer negative. Well, that is impossible. This is an example of no solution. So let me say this one more time. Whenever you have an absolute value bars equal to a negative single quantity, that is automatically no solution. All right, I hope this helps, and I'll see y'all in our next lesson.